Happy holidays. Hope you're having a great break. I thought I would cap out the year by doing a tag video. And this is the book Postscript tag created by Adam over at MomentoMori, who tagged me as well. It seems a fitting way to end off the Booktube year with these 9 bookish prompts. Starting with number 1, what's the longest book you read this year and which one took you the longest time to finish? Not coincidentally, the answer for both of these is the same. Weighing in at over 534 pages, this book is a chunkster of a read, but that's not why it took me so long to finish. It is frankly a bit of a slog to get through. It is a brutal, murderous epic about a ruthless space pirate that strangely has an edict against expletives flying around in a glass spaceship. It's all crying and moonchew and spice rigna, web feed, electric katanas, metal cheekbones, and an excessive use of italics. Of course, I'm talking about book 1 of the Andromeda saga, Zenith, by Sasha Alsberg, also known as Book Utopia on Booktube, and Lindsay Cummings. Now, I won't do a review of it here because there is no short of scathing reviews of this particular book on Booktube. Number 2, a book you read in 2018 that was outside of your comfort zone. I've read a lot of YA, found a lot of favorites in there, but new adult is a little bit outside my comfort zone. On the prose side, totally here for a retelling of the Beauty and the Beast myth. On the con side, fairy erotica, just not ready for that. It's A Court of Thorn and Roses by YA favorite Sarah J. Maas. Outside of my comfort zone, but what really pushed me into a different time zone completely is the Illyrian boyfriend box that came with it. Now, aside from the Man Candy Fairy Boys with their impressive wingspan, the big nope was the dick in the box. Frankly, I'm not used to having my hand sanitizers be so veiny. And despite all this big dick energy, it's ironic that something that the more you manhandle, the smaller it gets. But really the horrifying thing is the fact that it came with a suction cup at the base of it, which caused a lot of Twitter folks to helpfully admonish fans to not have sex with said soap. But at least it is vegan and cruelty-free, so there is at least that. Question 3, how many books did you reread in 2018? Well, quite a few actually, so let's get right to it with question 4. What was your favorite reread of 2018? And that would be Tomi Adeyemi's Children of Blood and Bone. Actually, I didn't reread that. I read Nora Roberts' Of Blood and Bone, but they're essentially the same book, right? Well, at least that's what Tomi Adeyemi would have you believe when she dragged Nora Roberts on social media for blatantly copying the title of her book. And just sparked a bunch of fan outrage. I mean, Tomi Adeyemi, obviously doing very well, New York Times best-selling YA debut novel, Nora Roberts obviously trying to bite on that fame. Nora Roberts, of course, has a 30-year career, having written over 225 books, is considered one of the top 15 most successful authors alive today, and recently in the 2018 Forbes Top 50 Richest American Self-Made Women. But yeah, probably trying to creep into that YA market that Tomi has capitalized on. Despite the fact that Nora Roberts probably wrote and sent to her publisher her novel a full year before Tomi Adeyemi's book actually was published. But nonetheless, I mean, you can see where that mistake would come from. Of Blood and Bone, pretty unique title, probably not a lot of books that way, so I thought I'd find out exactly and go on to Goodreads. And I gave up counting at around 50. So yeah, Nora Roberts clearly trying to tap into that YA market that Tomi Adeyemi had cornered. Okay, fine. So I haven't read any of the books I've mentioned so far at all. When I started this tag, I quickly realized I'm a garbage booktuber. I don't reread books. There's no books that I read this year that I'm looking forward to rereading at all. And frankly, any of the books I'd like to talk about with those previous answers, I've already talked about at length on my channel. So it was not until I got to question 9 where I had to reflect my year in general on Booktube that really got me thinking. And I'll get to my answer to that eventually. But it really came clear that for me this year, Booktube Drama really came into focus. And maybe it's the present environment. With 45 in office and his clickbaity tweets, the media's jumped on board and has moved to a tendency towards sensationalism. I mean, emotions drive clicks. We realize that. I mean, whether it's righteous indignation or tribalistic chest thumping, emotion works. I mean, even the Weather Network is getting in on the action, is dusting off its superlative weather titles, whether it's Snowmageddon or Icepocalypse the next time we see 2 inches of snow. And we in social media are always looking for that perfect hot take, But sometimes things can get out of hand. Here in Canada, our national broadcaster is currently embroiled in this big fiasco about whether to play Baby It's Cold Outside in light of the Me Too era. And a lot of national broadcasting stations are no longer playing this song. For me, at its best, this drama can inform. It can reveal my own personal biases, blind spots, and assumptions. It gives me better language to frame the argument and widens the context. But at its worst, it's an escalation of antagonism. It's this us versus them mentality where points are scored every time you're able to point out what a garbage human being that other person is. But still, I like this on Booktube because it's such a smaller microcosm of the larger online world and the stakes are smaller. I mean, people's livelihoods aren't at stake. Their lives aren't threatened. Except when they are, when it's happened to Steve Donahue for the crime of deciding to disparage the current president. And suddenly it feels less appropriate to take this jokey tone. But I love a bit of drama. It's schoolyard taunts, yo mama jokes. It is the perfectly phrased hot take, that bit of shade that takes things to the next level. Jon Stewart has made a career out of this and passed the baton to a host of new commentators. It is a perfectly phrased Twitter takedown, the 140 character assassination that is a beauty to behold. But people can get carried away. They start misreading the room and start calling out for blood. Now let's try and keep things a little lighter here as we dive back in and examine some more Booktube drama that happened this year. Number 5, a book you read in 2018 that you're looking forward to rereading in the future. I think I came across this storied thriller 2 years ago, found myself neck deep in it again this year, and I am certain this is something that I will be revisiting sometime in the near future. Now, I have to admit, the second time around, it lacked a certain amount of teeth, but there was a lot of critical response online that I found really illuminating. And what is this storied thriller called? Well, back in 2016, we knew it as #FakeReaderGirls. Steve Donahue shot a post-BEA video talking about a certain ilk of booktubers in their well-lit, well-filmed videos, sitting in front of studio lights wearing blush, and he had a hard time imagining them hunkered down with a good book, simply reading. And then Booktube burst into flames. Sometimes drama can be a springboard to a larger discussion. It is a chance to learn new things like respectability politics, tone policing, and gaslighting. But at its worst, it can devolve quickly and lead to personal attacks and start feeling like an angry mob. And when the level of influence is 10 to 1, maybe even 100 to 1 in this case of why Booktube versus Steve, it can feel less like a defense of a marginalized group and more like an angry mob with pitchforks and torches calling out the monster. I can't imagine what it felt like for Steve at that point. And once again, in 2018, we have Booktube newbie guy calling out 20-something girls with a face full of makeup screaming about YA. And man, Booktube, the knives came out again. But what I liked about this iteration is they kept said Booktuber in question mostly anonymous. Most people didn't link to his original video. And I like that. It allowed them to discuss misfiring of a cynical joke and really defend YA on Booktube. And it produced some fantastic content, not the least of which was Read with Cindy's Basic Bitch Booktube newbie tag video, which was fantastic. So yeah, it's easy for me to say, though, sitting on the sidelines eating popcorn. Of course, Steve and Scott both are creating content. I'm grateful for that. I think Booktube has room enough for differing voices, even if you don't necessarily agree with them. Of course, this is coming from a guy defending two other guys. Number 6, favorite short story or novella of 2018. This one was pitch perfect. I loved it. Everything about it was perfect. It opens on a bespectacled young girl wearing a robe, drinking tea, sitting on a high back chair, looking down at the camera, getting herself built up into this angry froth over Booktube, being racist. You know the video I'm talking about, and this thing is perfect, especially with her opening that she is not a nice person and she is not going to sit idly by and let this bullshit stand. She is in pure distillate form, a young, entitled white woman demanding to speak to YouTube's manager. I don't think I could have written a better parody if I tried. This is Ricky Gervais in the BBC office shooting a Booktube video. It is cringy, then delightful, and then back to cringy again. And the response was fantastic. But before I get carried away, I get it. I remember what it's like to be young and idealistic, to be so certain in my beliefs, to have read Atlas Shrugged and wondering why Ayn Rand isn't part of the cultural conversation, to read Nietzsche and understand that he truly got it and the rest of the world are sheep. But this was before social media. I was allowed to come to my own conclusions, broaden my worldview, take in new information. But I can't imagine what that would be like in this day and age, where you would be dragged online for your opinions and told how wrong and ignorant you were. I mean, I look back at those ideas that I had and I cringe. I can't believe the pretension and the privilege, but there was no record, no video evidence of that. And if there were, I don't know how I would reconcile that. I think it would hurt, and I don't know what I would do with that pain. And perhaps I would just dig in my heels and find other people that sort of shored up my worldview. I'd find the facts that fit with how I saw the rest of the world. And that hurt that I felt, I would look to push on to other people. It would become this us versus them. It would just further entrench my views. And I don't know what tack this girl took. But I love the response to this. The Novel Lush filmed a great response video that really articulated a lot of what I felt about this video and put it into better words than I ever could. And it was a chance to learn and broaden that conversation. But then I think about creationists, anti-vaxxers, Trump supporters, gun owners, Jordan Peterson fans, and to me, they're all that girl. Now with the girl, maybe as a result of those responses, she was able to recognize her blind spots and incorporate a larger worldview, but that doesn't always happen. A lot of the times, most of the times, it just further entrenches that worldview, and on both sides, it becomes more important that you're right instead of kind. But you keep trying, you keep telling those stories, you keep trying to reach out, to educate and inform. But I don't know, in the Booktube microcosm, it is something that's reflected in the larger world that I've been wrestling with. Is there a way of coming to an understanding, or is that a sucker's bet, going high when they go low? And the only way through is to fight fire with fire. Now, I know I'm not really articulating this well, but it is something that I've wrestled with a lot this year. 7. Mass Appeal, a book that you would recommend to a wide variety of readers. Now, I know I spent a lot of time talking about Booktube Drama here, and most of it plays out on Twitter, which of course is fueled on snark and drama, but Booktube is still something I would recommend to a ton of readers, which is kind of empty saying it here because in this small corner of Booktube, it's not like non-Booktubish people are coming across this video and saying, oh, Booktube is something I should check out probably. I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but I love Booktube. I love how it's continuing to grow and better define itself. We shone new lights on different corners of Booktube with the previous drama shining a light on POC booktubers. My Booktube Booker book tag shone a light on international booktubers with well over a dozen Italian booktubers taking a crack at that particular tag video. And I love the diversification of Booktube as more content creators are diversifying into podcasts, in doing live streams, building communities on Discords, and having impassioned discussions on sites like Gossip Guru. Now, maybe this is all old news to you. I get it. I'm usually late to the party. By the time it reaches a critical mass that breaches into my awareness, it's pretty late in the game, but still, I really did like Booktube this year. Number 8, Specialized Appeal, a book that you read in 2018 that you wouldn't recommend to just about anyone. Now, I mentioned it in the last question, and that's Gossip Guru. And it's something that came up when we were talking about Booktube Drama on the Discord. Now, I know I say that Twitter is fueled by snark and outrage. Well, forums can devolve into a new low of petty. Gossip Guru, no exception. It's where I went to find out a lot about the Booktube Drama I discussed here, where they examine it in minute play-by-play detail. For example, there is the big booktuber drama at BookCon, where they would suddenly appear in lineups as soon as they would start moving. A horde of 20 that would jump in front of the line to snatch up advanced reader copies at the expense of those people waiting in line behind them, despite the fact that these booktubers could probably talk to their publisher and get these copies sent to them easily, but for the sake of these big haul videos that they're going to shoot afterwards. And then dressing up like they're on the red carpet at cons and posing for cringy photo shoots. Now, these are their words, and it seems a little trolly, and for the most part, it's going to elicit a huge eye-rolly, who gives a fuck sigh. But I still loved it, and not for that sort of trolly anger, but for the fact that Booktube is at a size where it can elicit this type of conversation. I love that it's that big and that there's a site dedicated to picking apart those people on it. And it's easy for me to say I'm small enough that I fall well below their radar, but I enjoyed scrolling through Gossip Guru as I examined this past year in Booktube Drama. It was a lot of fun, but it is not something I recommend to just about anyone. Number 9, reflect on your year as a bookish content creator. This year, I released 37 videos. And much like a lot of you subscriber-wise, you release a video, your subscriber count goes down, and then slowly climbs itself back up. Now, I know at over 6,000 subscribers, I probably are not warranting a lot of empathy, but I do remember what that first 1,000 was like and how it feels when you see people who started their channel well after you shoot past you in numbers. But it never really mattered because this January marks my 4th year on Booktube, and 4 years is the deadline I gave myself. I didn't think I would get any sort of traction in anything less than 4 years. I started this to scratch a creative itch, to learn a little bit about video and play along as my daughter started a YouTube channel of her own. But at 4 years, my personal deadline has passed. This is the year I decide whether I stay on Booktube, if this is something that I want to continue doing, and what that means for me. And frankly, that's a little nerve-wracking. This past year, I got to play along with the Tournament of Books, offering commentary on a judge's ruling between Exit West and Goodbye Vitamin. I was the first booktuber they ever invited to take part. It was a lot of fun. I also traveled with my daughter to Seoul, South Korea, tried my hand at doing a travel vlog, and it was eye-opening. The best travel vlogs out there make it look easy, but it is anything but. I shot a video for Tara Westover's Educated, and at 25,000 views, it is my most watched video, inexplicably, of all time. It must have hit some sort of YouTube algorithm mojo that I'm unaware of. Fortunately, it doesn't really translate into new subscribers. I created an original book tag, the Booktube Booker Book Tag, which was an interesting experiment in online data collection. And back in April, I started a Discord, which has proven fantastic. I love the people there and the community they're in. We're not the first Booktube Discord. Certainly, there's been new Booktube and AuthorTube Discords that have started up in the subsequent months, but I love this community. We also have a little book club where once a month we get together to discuss a book in question. I've really balked at book clubs in the past. I've never liked the idea of enforced reading, but I find it manageable, and I love getting together to chat about food, tangential things, and sometimes even the book. Anyway, I love that community that's there, and I'm trying to get better at it as I familiarize myself with the platform. As with Booktube, there's a lot of ebb and flow. We've lost a lot of booktubers this year, and a lot of new booktubers and old booktubers have returned to the platform, such as it is every year. I still love the community, but it is daunting to know that this is the year I decide what it means truly for myself. Anyway, that is the book Postscript book tag. Thanks, Adam, for tagging me. I apologize for taking it off in the tangent that I did, but I really did wrestle with trying to fill it with books, and it just was not working. So Booktube Drama it is. This may or may not be for you. Anyway, that is it. I hope you've had a fantastic 2018. I'm looking forward to 2019 and all the change that it will bring. But in the meantime, I hope you have a great week of reading, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.